Organized stupidity. When stupidity becomes systemic or system wide, institutionalized, that's what I mean by organized stupidity. We talk about organized crime like mafia. We have organized church like the Roman Catholic Church with the Vatican City and the Pope at the top, and then the whole system. So, you organized religion, organized crime, and a bigger problem than organized crime, to my mind, is organized stupidity. When stupidity is a systemic or system wide phenomenon. Socrates used to say that, or said that, I only know how ignorant I am. That's my knowledge. My knowledge, or the only thing that I know, is that I don't know much. I would like to go a step beyond that and say that I know that I don't know much, but I also know that others also don't know much. So I acknowledge my ignorance, but I would like to also acknowledge ignorance of others. So nobody really knows much. So basically, there is a cloud of stupidity hanging over us. And Einstein also said, there are two things which are infinite: the universe and human stupidity. And I'm not sure about the first. So he was joking about the capacity of humans to be infinitely stupid. And I think it is a problem. Stupidity, when I say stupidity, I mean mediocrity, things which are not optimal or suboptimal, functioning in a suboptimal manner, in a mediocre manner, less than ideal manner, you know. And I think this happens because at an individual level, excellence and brilliance is possible. But in the aggregate, you revert to the mean. I mean, you can have a genius in a class of a bunch of 100 students, 50 students, but you take everybody's IQ and then average it out, then the mean is less than. It's neither one extreme nor the other extreme. The famous normal distribution or Bell's curve, you have some readings or some measurements which are on the one extreme. If you take IQ of people and plot a curve, it will be a bell curve. Some would be geniuses, some would be, close to much below the normal IQ level, and most would fall in the average zone. That's why the bell curve. So that's what happens to humanity. In aggregate, we revert to the mean, we cluster around the mean. And so individual excellence is possible. Excellence at an aggregate level, at a macro level, becomes difficult because then you have so many people, and then there is tendency to revert to the mean, because you have some people who are extremely smart, some people who are very dumb, and most who are average. And since the majority is average, the overall thing goes into the middle, which is not ideal, because then it goes towards mediocrity, goes towards being average. Average is not ideal. So you don't have brilliance and highest IQ level systems, but systems which are characterized by mediocre IQ. I mean, an organization which is characterized by mediocre IQ, the collective IQ is mediocre, the collective IQ is average. And that's what runs the society. That's how the systems are run. That's how the society is organized. Our society is organized by the mediocrity of the collective IQ, or the averageness of the collective IQ. And that's how we have a system which is not very bright, not very smart, or what I would call stupid, which is less than optimal or less than ideal situation. So in the aggregate, we tend to revert to the mean. So we can't have real IQ, real brilliance, real smartness, real intelligence. We have middle level IQ, middling IQ. And that's what dominates actually, because that is majoritarianism. Majority works in most of the cases, majority rules in most of the cases, and majority is governed by this Bell's curve or normal distribution. So the IQ of the majority reverts to the mean. So that is what dominates. Average IQ dominates. Average IQ based thinking dominates. Average IQ based systems dominate. Average IQ based processes dominate. So the world is run by average IQ based systems or processes or organizations. The other thing is, you need brilliance to recognize brilliance. I mean, it is not easy to spot a genius. To spot a genius, you may have to be a genius yourself, and the majority has a difficulty because in identifying genius, because majority has this problem of average IQ. So when it encounters a superior IQ, it doesn't understand it. It took a long time before people like Einstein were accepted. Theory of relativity was hard to understand and all that. So mediocrity finds it difficult to recognize genius or brilliance, and can't accept it or rejects it. So, and since mediocrity is in charge because majority is in charge, and the IQ of majority is mediocre, not at the extreme level of brilliance. So mediocrity rules, majority rules, and brilliance doesn't win. So we have average level collective IQ governing human affairs. So that's what I mean by stupidity being organized. Stupidity has acquired the nature of the status of being organized, and that rules our lives in most of the cases in human affairs, and that's a problem. By which I mean suboptimal thinking, not brilliant thinking, mediocre thinking, less than ideal kind of thinking, and that's a problem because that's a stumbling block to human progress or progress of mankind or nations or societies or civilizations. And to me, it's a bigger problem than organized crime, because this is the whole affects the whole of human society and all that. And the other thing that one example I would like to give is, one of the problems which is pertinent to this is, even in humanities and social studies, which are now called social sciences because of the success of natural sciences, everybody wants to be scientific, and they have tried to extrapolate the scientific method to other areas which are essentially non-scientific, and you can't subject them to that kind of thinking. I mean, you can't think like a physicist when it comes to something like, say, sociology or economics or political science or stuff like that. We call them sciences, but they are not actually sciences. They are studies, they are disciplines, management, human of things that affect humanity. Study of humanity is liberal studies, sociology, politics, economics, and all, management, and all these areas. But since science has done very well and mankind has seen the successes of science, mankind has tried to, in some ways, tried to apply the scientific method to the areas of humanities. And that doesn't work really, because each human being is different, and they don't all follow the same laws of economics or politics, or there are no human laws that every human being is going to think in the same fashion. Gravity applies to human beings, just like it applies to a piece of rock or something. But when it comes to human thought processes, human emotions, human feelings, human likes and dislikes, then you can't have a common law which governs all human beings. Maybe there will be majority and minority. More people would be of this sort and fewer people of this sort, but it will never ever be 100%. So the universality of science, that gravity applies universally and almost 100%. There are no exceptions. Scientific laws do not, natural laws do not have exceptions. Gravity applies universally everywhere. I mean, to almost everything, and it's well defined mathematically. These kinds of precise mathematical laws can't be applied to social aspects and human affairs. You can only say that some people like this and some people don't like this. Some people favor this and some people oppose this. Maybe out of 100, 70% are in favor and 30% are in opposition. But you will never ever have one area where everybody would agree. More or less, you will have some disagreements. So you can't have universal laws when it comes to human affairs, like economics and politics and social studies and all that, sociology. So this idea of extrapolating scientific method and the precision in mathematics that you find in natural sciences, trying to apply it to social sciences doesn't work. And then you have this idea of proof and scientific proof, and theories have to be proved, and economics requires proof, and there is mathematical stuff put in economics. Everywhere you are trying to use mathematics. In humanities, in whenever you are talking of research, you try to quantify everything. Even in these areas are basically qualitative areas, the areas of ideas and human affairs, and you try to quantify it. And if you can't quantify it, you reject it, and that's where we get stuck. So this idea of studying human affairs through the scientific methodology or a mathematical methodology doesn't really work, and that stymies progress in these areas. So this fashion of using mathematical models and quantitative techniques in every area, like economics and sociology and politics, is a problem, I think, and that doesn't allow other ideas to come up, because it always asks for empirical stuff or mathematical proof and stuff like that, and you can never ever have something of that sort in these areas, because human beings are intrinsically different, fundamentally different from each other, different ideas, different thinking, different likes and dislikes. So you can't have universal laws in these areas. And since you don't have universal laws, you just stop thinking about that, and you can't even come up with new ideas and new facts and new ways of thinking. That, I think, is one of the problems. So that again is a stupid way of thinking about how to go about research in these areas or studies in these areas like politics or economics or sociology, because these are disciplines that affect human life, human welfare, and they have to come out of this clutch of this so-called scientific paradigm. Scientific paradigm works in sciences, not in these areas. So if you want new ideas and fresh thought processes, forget the quantification aspect of it. Let quantification work in areas it works. It doesn't have that much of a relevance in human affairs, because you will never ever have 100% unanimity in any subject when it comes to human affairs and human ideas and human likes and dislikes and uh, majority or minority and maybe a percentage variation. That's all you can have. You will never get unanimity for one political idea or one particular ideology. You will always have some people are for, some people are against, and then you can only have maybe 51% are for, or 70% are for, or 80% are for, but 20% are against. You will never ever have 100%. So this kind of applying mathematical way of thinking about human affairs is wrong, especially in humanity based subjects like economics and sociology and politics. It works in natural sciences, let it stay there. And that's compounding this problem of stupidity governing our systems. That is also a stupid idea that has been governing thinking in these areas. So organized stupidity is a problem, and it needs to be dealt with. It can be done when somehow there are brilliant ideas and brilliant people, and somehow they are able to convince people to buy in or support those ideas or those thought processes. It takes time, energy, and efforts. It's difficult because majority finds it difficult to digest these things because of the IQ issue, huge IQ gap, a brilliant IQ when you are when a normal intelligence is confronted by an extremely superior intelligence, there is a comprehension difficulty. So, and majority being in that normal intelligence group, they find it difficult to accept new and brilliant ideas. That's a problem. Big, great leaders, powerful thinkers, eventually, somehow, gradually can make a difference, but it takes time and energy and patience and as much support as possible. Otherwise, it is difficult to change this. But it is curable, it can be done, because even organizationally, excellence is possible when the leader espouses excellence and when the leaders or people in charge are strong and excellent individuals. Then they can sort of make it happen. They can make that thing kind of put something in place that works. Excellence can be institutionalized if they enforce it in that sense, but that requires a lot of power and willpower and commitment from the brilliant, from the top, and the top has to be brilliant enough to do that. Then it is possible to remove this mediocrity from systems. That would be done by the handful or minority who are brilliant and who are able to kind of defeat the power and the dominance of mediocrity. Can be done. Individually, if you are stupid, you can't. There is no cure, because it's not you take a pill and your IQ goes up. So stupidity, individual human stupidity, is incurable. You can cure depression, you can cure anxiety, you can cure other problems, psychological and mental problems, mental health problems. But stupidity is not mental health, it is a condition, and that is incurable. There is no pill that will make you IQ improve. But at the organizational level, I am optimistic that it can be cured if somehow brilliant people are able to kind of prevail, and thinking of brilliant people dominates and prevails, and slowly, grudgingly, maybe the mass starts accepting that. Then it can happen. It has happened in the world. That's how revolutions have happened. In thinking, we were thinking something else. We were thinking the earth was at the center, now the sun is at the center. So it was an idea, relativity came, quantum mechanics came, espoused by a few brilliant individuals, or one brilliant individual, and then somehow gradually people started accepting it. But then it was because of, again, the problem is that was something that one could prove, and there was no arguing against it because it was empirical, based in fact, and all that. So there was no way around. I mean, because one could actually prove those things. Whereas in humanities, it's, as I said, it's difficult to prove because it's not a law of science. It's not like gravity that you can prove. It's just an ideology. It's a way of thinking. So new way of thinking, a new kind of ideology, because there is no proof. It's just a different way of thinking. So getting people to accept that is a bit difficult. But it can be done, I'm sure, if people realize this, that we live in a society which is run by stupidity, which is entrenched, systemic stupidity. If we understand that, then maybe we can maybe shake off this problem that has been plaguing us. Thank you.